Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Birmingham Sports Podcast. I am your host, as always, Josh Lovett. We've got a big week of basketball coming up for Samford and UAB. Neither team has played since their games this past weekend, so we've got a bit of a preview episode for you here, and then we've got some other notes with the Stallions, Legion, Barons, etc. But we'll start with Samford. And as we've talked about on this show, they're playing some of their best basketball heading into the home stretch of the season before they go to Asheville for the SoCon tournament. Having won 6 of their last 7 games, Coach Lenny Acuff has this team in position to make a run in the SoCon tournament. We're kind of beating a dead horse here when we talk about what it's going to take for this team to make a push in the tournament and make a March Madness run, but I'll quickly recap it for you anyway. Jaden Booth and Dylan Faulkner have to continue to play like the all-conference players they were predicted to be at the beginning of this season. Dylan Faulkner, who is a junior, has recorded 11 double-doubles so far this season and is averaging 17.5 points a game, as well as 8.5 rebounds a game. Jaden Booth, who is playing his first season of Division I basketball, mind you, is averaging 21 points a game and is leading the entire country, yes, the entire country, in three-pointers per game. Both Faulkner and Booth have been nothing but consistent all season, and the other part of this blueprint for Samford is the Norris brothers to contribute around 10 points each. They've been doing that as of late, and if they can continue to do that, that would be massive for this team. And when that happens, plus a few points and key plays from role players, the Bulldogs have a shot to upset anybody in Asheville that might be seated ahead of them. That could be an ETSU, Wofford, Furman, whoever it may be. Samford does have 2 regular season games remaining on their schedule. Both of these are at home, starting on Thursday at 7 p.m. and then Saturday at 5 p.m. Both games are going to be key for seeding purposes. Samford could finish anywhere between 2nd and 6th in the conference, which is going to determine their matchup and their path in Asheville. Be sure to get out to the Pete Hanna Center this week to check out this potential March Madness team. We'll shift our attention to downtown Birmingham now and talk about UAB. Andy Kennedy and the Blazers are coming off a win at Memphis, which we mentioned was the first UAB win at Memphis since 1999. This was a really, really big win for them for standings purposes, and I really want to shout out 2 players here. I want to shout out, first of all, Evan Chapman. I feel like he's kind of an unsung hero of this squad. He wasn't necessarily predicted to have a super large role, but as of the last 5 games, he's really, really come along. He's got 10 points, 13 points, 12 points, 11 points, and then had 22 in the win over Memphis and over the course of his last 5. And this dude is also a rebounding machine. He had 17 rebounds against Rice back in early February, 13 against Tulsa, 13 more against Tulane. You need a glue guy on a team, and I really feel like Chapman is just that guy for UAB. The next guy that I want to talk about is Chance Westry. He's had a great year. He's leading the Blazers in overall scoring with just over 15 points a game, and he's got back-to-back 20-plus point performances, which this team has desperately needed it as they've had to battle some injuries down the stretch here. This is absolutely a team that can make a run in the American Conference tournament, as we've already seen them beat some of the teams that are near the top of the conference. They own a win at Tulsa, who led the conference for a long time. They've got a nice key win over Memphis, who sits in the middle of the pack of the standings right now. They've played South Florida close, who's leading the conference currently. They played Wichita State close, only losing by 5. They also own a win over South Florida by 3. So we've seen this team compete with and or beat some of the teams that are ahead of them in the standings, and they've also got this advantage going for them. The conference tournament is here in Birmingham at the Legacy Arena. That's in 14 days is when that starts. So be sure that you can get out there to that tournament and support these guys. They've also got an 11 a.m. game this Sunday against North Texas. Try to make it to the early services this weekend so you can make the 11 a.m. tip. Before we talk about the Stallions and some of the UFL rule changes that came out this year, I've got a couple other teams I want to briefly touch on. I want to talk about the Legion first. They've got their first game, home opener, coming up on March 7th when they take on the Tampa Bay Rowdies. It's the Mascot Mayhem night. There's also fireworks. It'll be the start of a great season for the Legion. Again, first game, March 7th, 7 o'clock against the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And I want to touch on the Barons here for just a second, too. Their season is coming right up around the corner. Their first game is in Knoxville on April 3rd. They'll have a 3-game set there before they have their first home series of the year against the Lookouts. Those games will be taking place the week of April 7th. Those games will run on the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And some news with them is they have actually locked down Joey Chestnut, yes, the Joey Chestnut, to attempt the Birmingham Food Challenge at Regents Field on Thursday, May the 28th. That will be a game against the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. Be sure to mark that one on your calendar, as well as their first home series, which again takes place on April the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. All right, now it's time for arguably the biggest news of the day, and that's with the Stallions in the UFL. They have had a complete new set of rule changes just released. We did know this was coming, and it was officially released today, so I'll take you guys through all the new rule changes that have happened, and there's quite a bit of them, so sit tight and listen up. The first one I want to touch on is the new 4-point field goal rule. The UFL is the league of kickers after all, and we all should know that as we had Brandon Aubrey come through here. And it only seems fitting that this league is going to continue to help out their kickers. In wake of modern field goal kicking where players are consistently hitting 60-plus yarders, the UFL has decided to incentivize these bigger kicks. This season, any field goal that is from 60 yards or further is worth 4 points when successful. So this has huge potential to have a major shakeup in the game. And arguably in the best way too, really, because it's going to cause these coaches to game plan completely differently, especially at the end of halves, the end of games. It's also very interesting in conjunction with the next rule change, which is there are no punts inside the 50-yard line. So once a team crosses the 50, they are no longer allowed to punt. And this is also a very interesting note about this rule. If a team crosses the 50-yard line but then goes behind it, whether it's a TFL or a sack or a penalty, they are still unable to punt. So once you cross that 50-yard line, it's kind of like a barrier. Once you get across that barrier, there's no going back. You've got to go for it once you get there. The only time this rule does not apply is after the 2-minute warning of each half. So during that time, there's going to be no restriction on where the teams can punt from. And this is going to drastically change how teams play around the middle of the field. Are coaches going to be more aggressive and take longer shots? Or are they going to be more cautious to try to preserve the ability to punt? Because after all, a punt is a team's most successful play when executed right, because you're at least able to flip the field, and you always want to end a drive in a kick, whether that's a field goal, extra point, or a punt, and you maintain your ability to do so if you're able to punt. And this also gives defensive players a lot more, urgency and impact throughout the game if they're able to keep them in front of that 50-yard line. A third down stop can guarantee the offense getting the ball at midfield as opposed to dealing with a short field and position from a punt if they're able to cough and corner somebody. So the UFL is taking a big swing with this rule, but it will undeniably help create an identity for the league's brand of football. This one's also quick and self-explanatory. They're going to the college-style 1 foot in bounds rule on catches, which we're all a huge fan of. It's going to make the game more fun, crazier action. They have also banned the tush push, which has been a huge, point of emphasis in the offseason this past couple years among owners at the league meetings, is trying to figure out if they're going to ban it, if they're not going to ban it. There's been a lot of teams that have really pushed for it. Other teams seemingly don't care as much, especially the Eagles. I mean, we all know they basically patented the play and everybody's copying them now. But it is out in the UFL, so they're removing it from the game. There's a new point after touchdown rules. After a touchdown is scored, teams will now have 3 options to go for additional points. The first option is going to be to kick a 33-yard field goal, and the option to kick for a point was not there last season at all, so seeing it return is good. Probably gives fans a little bit more of a familiar feeling with football. To get 2 points, the ball's going to be placed at the 2-yard line and teams attempt to play, and then for the signature 3-point play, teams will have the ball placed at the 8-yard line. There's some new overtime rules in the UFL this season. We know overtimes have really been a controversial thing for a long time in the NFL when both teams weren't allowed to. It's not that they weren't allowed to. It's just the game could end on a touchdown if the first team that got the ball scored. So you saw the situation with Josh Allen in the playoffs however many years ago where he didn't get a chance to match Mahomes. That's since been changed. College had really good overtime rules, and then we had the LSU-Texas A&M game that went to 7 overtimes, and then they took that out of the game, and they had the alternating 2-point conversions once you get into overtime 3 or further. But overtime in the UFL is going to be very simple. Both teams are going to get alternating attempts from the 5-yard line. If 3 attempts for each team does not result in a winner, the teams will continue to alternate attempts until one team finally wins. So it's a little bit closer to that college style once you get past the past the third overtime. But it's going to be good because you're not going to have these overtimes going on forever and ever. It's going to be quick. It's going to be decisive. And also it's important to note that The home team will get to choose whether they want to be on offense or defense first. And then if there is no home team, like in the playoffs, there will be a coin flip used instead. Red zone penalties are going to the NFL model for this upcoming season. The UFL will have penalties in the red zone result in half a distance to the goal. For the coin toss before games and prior to overtime, the UFL will have a traditional coin toss to decide who gets the ball first. The difference is this season the visiting team gets to call heads or tails, while previously the home team was the one who made the call. Lastly, I want to talk about the new kickoff rules. So the kickoff rules have been something that's been very controversial in the NFL, as they made that change 2 or 3 years ago now, I believe, and college has kept it the same. But the UFL is joining a model similar to the NFL. So the ball is going to be kicked from the 30-yard line, while the rest of the kicking team will be lined up at the 45. The receiving team will be in between the 40 and 35-yard lines, aside from the 2 returners, as they will be deep. The landing zone will be from the receiving team's 20-yard line to the goal line, as it is in the NFL. The ball must reach that area, or it will be spotted at the 40-yard line. If the ball goes out of bounds, it will also be spotted at the 40. And then if the ball is kicked into the end zone, it will be spotted at the 40 as well. And if the ball hits the landing zone and then rolls into the end zone, so if a team essentially decides not to return it, if it is kicked into the landing zone, it'll be spotted at the 20. So they're very similar to the NFL's, but an interesting dynamic with this one is the new 50-yard line no punting rule, right? Because a team could be getting the ball at the 40-yard line, and then they get 1 first down and they can't punt anymore. So that's going to create some interesting dynamics. You've got the new 4-point field goal that teams are going to have to deal with too. So all those rules kind of mixed together are going to give the UFL a very unique identity, and it's going to be very, very fun to watch. But that's all we have for you guys today. I want to thank you for watching. We'll be back with you guys, I think, over the weekend. We're going to do another weekend recap. We'll get you the scores on the Samford and UAB games. And then at least for the Southern Conference, we will have the conference tournament draws by that point, and we'll give you a nice preview before those teams see action starting on Thursday. So thank you again for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel, and we will see you guys again next week.